We treat people who are poor terribly, and it doesn't make a lot of sense because we have everything. Right? We have everything in this country, and we don't treat people who are poor with a lot of respect, or we just don't treat them well at all.
It was a warm summer day on August 12, 2001, when a group of youth activists and homeless individuals formed a tent city at Campbell Memorial Park, gathering together in downtown London to raise public awareness of a desperate situation. As we mark 20 years of Unity Project, we reflect on how an idea born in tents was raised in a community and evolved over 2 decades of work providing relief of homelessness in London. So here we are in 2021, commemorating 20 years of Unity Project for Relief of Homelessness in London. And what better place to start than here with Chuck Lazenby, who is an Action Family founding member, the general manager, and now the executive director of Unity Project for Relief of Homelessness. And so it's a pleasure to be with you here all this time. And so I thought we should start with you telling us about the origins of the Unity Project.
Well, basically, a group of us had kind of gotten together to, do some direct action in our own community when it came to some issues of social injustice. And we had done a number of things in the community. And, there was the Canada Summer Games coming to London. There were folks who, were sleeping on the street or seemed to be street involved that would be moved along, and there was this kind of cleanup and this beautification of our city. And we just really wanted to expose that we had an issue with poverty, an issue with homelessness, and we wanted to bring attention to that issue. And so we took over a tiny little park downtown, Campbell Memorial Park, and we got there and set up tents for a free store. We had extra tents for people to stay in if people experiencing homelessness were coming. And just very quickly, people came to stay in the park. We went from a city park to a campsite on the edge of town to a warehouse to a farmhouse. And then we were able to purchase our own property on Dundas Street. So those transitions were really key, right, to allowing us to, I think, take an opportunity to reevaluate ourselves at each point in time. We came up with Unity Project because, one, we talked about our values as being a good reflection of community, but the recognition that you don't get there and then stay there. It's always in motion. It's something that you always have to work on in order to bring that back together. So project really made sense for us, that we wanted that unity and we wanted that reflected, but the reality that it's a work in progress all the time, right? For us to keep those values.
Controversy became conversation, a manifesto retitled Business Plan, and the community experience in the park led to the initiation of Unity Project for Relief of Homelessness, a shelter service with a secular orientation and a participatory model.
Well, we have 4 basic principles that we've had since we were in the park, which are respect, compassion, cooperation, and interdependence. And we use those principles basically to shape everything that happens within the Unity Project. So all our policies, the way we interact with each other. So those are our 4 basic principles upon which the Unity Project is based.
Shelter services and shelter agencies are so typically faith-based.
Yes.
And value-driven from that core faith-based aspect. And Unity Project's values are very secular. But then later, how we realized that actually values don't inform our services. Outcomes and housing informs our services, and values are what informs your character and your approach to those services and how you offer. And that was really key to me to see that. I didn't see that forest for the trees for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, you nailed it when you said it informs our character. It is how we approach things, right? And those values have really rooted us the whole time. We've never changed them. We've actually never even really thought about changing them. I think we've changed, some of our mandates, some of the program components, but they've always been informed by those values, yeah.
And there was a big transition in our recognition, and that we wanted to work as part of a system-based service delivery. So instead of us being contracted to provide a certain number of beds for the city, to provide a certain number of spaces for people experiencing homelessness, that we were trying to be part of a system to end the experience of homelessness, and therefore the solution was not for us to grow.
It was to do our work better.
It was to do our work better.
It was to do our work really well, to ensure that we are actually working with people towards that goal and working with everybody out in the community. That's the other thing. I think a big recognition for us was about seeing that we don't do this on our own. It is about connecting with community partners. It is about connecting with all the resources that are out there in order to actually end that experience.
Taking care of self and others is a life-affirming, creative act when you have some resources to work with, and working together builds opportunity for community, for personal accountability and mutual support, for reflection, expression, and, social work.
The residents have chores they're responsible for, so basic household chores like you would have in any house. So they have to do daily chores as well as kitchen chores, which are meal prep or dishes. So dishes are done 4 times a day, and meals twice a day that residents cook. So they sign up for them during the week. And there's consequences if they don't do them, because people who don't do their chores, everybody else has to look after that and take that on. As well as to be able to work on those principles, so respect, compassion, cooperation, and interdependence while they stay here, so that we expect them to respect each other and be able to resolve conflicts in an appropriate way, and also to set goals for themselves. So whatever goals, we don't set those goals at all, so it could be small goals or large goals, and that's part of the responsibility here as well.
So how do you figure that the participatory aspect of Unity Project and our commitment to participatory practice in our shelter speaks to this 20 years down the road and our commitment to evidence-based best practice? How do those two things speak to each other?
One of the things that I think we contributed to the community, I'm not saying that we absolutely changed this language, but we certainly started with changing this language, is the difference between a client and a participant. And so when we started calling people residents or participants of the program, that gave a little more ownership over their space and their stay. There's a big difference between telling someone what they need to do, and especially when you don't have the frame of reference of their own experience, and asking someone what they'd like from you to support them. What are their goals? What would they like? So I think that has been a really strong thread with us throughout that 20 years, and something now that we actually can back up, with best practice that is out there in the world.
Even as our charitable mission advanced to being explicitly housing-focused to prevent or to end the experience of homelessness for the individual, we recognize that charities don't solve homelessness. Humane public policy does that.
We don't have enough affordable housing. So, when more shelter beds were added in the city, there wasn't more affordable housing built. So, we're just seeing the situation get worse. And that is always the key thing, is if we don't have housing for people to stay in that's safe and affordable, then you're always gonna have people in shelters.
What has changed in London and beyond? Has anything changed? Mm-hmm. Are we still in the same place? Are things getting better? Where are we at?
Yeah, certainly the depressing part is things are not getting better, right? Despite all the work and all the efforts and all the re-envisioning about how we do our work and reconfiguring it, and all of that is really necessary. But the core issues are still the same, right? Social assistance rates are deplorable. They don't allow people to actually afford rent. And that is a core piece. If you can't pay for your rent, then you can't have a place. And then vacancy rates for affordable units, they're very low. Rents have just skyrocketed, and social assistance has not kept up. And so, we're reinventing ourselves and doing everything new and following new best practices and creating that. Even though if we would just do like these one thing, increase social assistance so people can pay rent, that itself would allow us to actually focus on what the real needs are. So I think that is the really hard part to contend with, is that we're still not there. We still keep talking about like, what's the solution to homelessness? And like, it's been the same,
It's not shelter.
It's not shelter. It's not shelter. It's housing.
Right. And so what do you think has been Unity Project's influence in the community? We're doing our job better to that extent.
Yeah. I mean, I think that Unity Project is well known for just doing it, right? We'll try it out and then we'll say what didn't work. We're bold when we talk about things. We question things. We will participate as a good community partner, in new ideas, but we will also say this is working or this is not working. We're not silent about those things. And so I think we are looked at as an organization that has a lot of integrity, is bold and take risks that are reasonable, and really has helped to inform what's possible within the context of emergency shelter.
The city was developing new and promising Housing First programming. Unity Project was on course in its evolution from London's littlest shelter to Canada's largest participatory Housing First emergency shelter. We were just weeks away and looking forward to the company of several hundred friends coming closely together for our Up With Art fundraiser.
It seems like in Unity Project's history, we work hard, we get something figured out, we put it all in place, we're about to admire the fruits of our labor when lightning strikes. Mm-hmm. The pandemic was one of those moments.
Yes.
And it was one of those moments for everybody, but tell me what that was like for Unity Project.
Yeah, I think that we were just entering like a third year of evaluating our services after having put in a lot of work to becoming, a housing-focused shelter, right? And that was a number of years. And then we just had to shift everything overnight, and literally overnight. Taking over a hotel, we doubled our occupancy. We had to create all these new policies in the midst of the pandemic that we don't really know exactly what's going on. Telling residents not all of them were coming to the hotel with us because we were changing to be able to support people who needed to isolate because of health issues that would be more vulnerable to, dying of COVID. And everybody was just so understanding, and I just really feel so lucky to have worked with that team in that kind of situation, right? Because it was a lot to take on, and no one bowed out. Right? No one bowed out. Everybody stayed committed, and everybody, really worked hard to make that work well. There are some really strong lessons we've learned that we'd like to carry with us into the future to further strengthen the program that we are actually able to provide for people.
And I guess, what is that? What is that future?
I think, we needed an appropriate facility, right? We need to build a space that reduces barriers for people, that ensures that we can accommodate folks as they come to the door, which includes, pets and couples and whoever that might be. And really, brings together all our learnings from all the different facilities we've been in over the years, and amalgamate that into one. And I think that really is our future, is to make a space that really embodies our values, right? And so I'm really excited about that possibility. Mm-hmm.
And again, it's not to put more beds
into the
system. It's about serving people better.
Absolutely. I think that facility design is undervalued when it comes to things like emergency shelters, and we really want to demonstrate how important it is to be able to, serve people well.
So, does Unity Project have, do we as a community have the same energy for social change and justice that motivated this whole thing 20 years ago?
I think that there is a broader sense and a broader understanding of the injustice that people experiencing homelessness are going through. I think the pandemic has really brought that out. I think in general people talk about it more with kindness, with learning about destigmatizing the language, and so I'm very hopeful that we actually can really drive the change that's necessary. We do have it in us to do this for another 20 years. I mean, I'm not tired. We've got staff who have been with us for, nearly 15 years and they're still going. And, and new staff that have come to join us along the way and taken up those values and taken up that cause. And I think that we're just going to keep challenging the system. We're going to keep challenging those pieces and growing with the needs. Like we're here, and that's whatever we look like in 20 years from now is going to be because it's what's needed.
We were born in tents in a city park, and we are grateful to have been raised in such a great community. Over the past 20 years, the love and support of thousands has helped thousands to obtain and maintain housing, to achieve stability and restore well-being. Tomorrow, and for the next 20 years, it will be the love, the anger, and the demands of many thousand more that will help solve homelessness. The next chapter is full of possibility for our Unity Project.